The line outside the AGT Manila audition stretched farther than anyone expected that morning, curling around the convention center like a restless ribbon of hope. Some people clutched guitars, others hummed scales under their breath, and a few stared straight ahead as if courage itself were something fragile that might shatter if acknowledged too openly. Among them stood a man no one noticed at first. He wore a simple white shirt, slightly creased at the sleeves, and jeans that had clearly lived a hard-working life. His hair was neatly combed, dark with a hint of silver at the temples, and his shoes were polished but old. He didn't pace or rehearse out loud. He didn't film TikToks or joke nervously with nearby contestants. He simply stood there, hands folded, eyes lowered, breathing slowly, as if listening to a song no one else could hear. His name was Daniel Reyes. To the people around him, he was just another hopeful auditioning for a miracle. But to Daniel, walking into that line had taken 32 years of quiet surrender, missed chances, and promises made to everyone except himself. When he was 9, Daniel had discovered Elvis Presley on an old VHS tape his uncle brought home from overseas. The picture was grainy, the sound warped, but none of that mattered. From the first note, Daniel felt something crack open inside his chest. Elvis wasn't just singing. He was commanding air, bending emotion, making loneliness feel shared instead of heavy. Daniel watched the tape until the colors faded and the tape squealed, memorizing every movement, every pause, every breath. In the evenings, while his parents worked double shifts, Daniel would stand in front of the mirror with a hairbrush microphone, mimicking not just Elvis' voice, but the feeling behind it. It wasn't imitation that pulled him in. It was recognition. Somewhere deep inside, Daniel felt like he belonged to that sound. But life, especially in a small Manila neighborhood where survival came before dreams, had other plans. His father fell ill when Daniel was 16. Medical bills piled up, and college became a luxury no one spoke about anymore. Daniel took whatever work he could find: warehouse assistant, delivery driver, hotel bellman. At night, when exhaustion wrapped around him like a second skin, he sang quietly so he wouldn't wake the neighbors. Sometimes he sang to empty rooms. Sometimes he sang to the rain. Years passed. His father died. His mother aged. His younger siblings built lives of their own. And Daniel's dream settled into a small, locked space inside his chest labeled impossible. Until one afternoon, while working as a maintenance supervisor in a mid-range hotel, Daniel was asked to help set up for a wedding reception. As guests filtered in, the sound system malfunctioned. The coordinator panicked. Without thinking, Daniel took the microphone and tested it with a single note: low, warm, unmistakably Elvis. The room went silent. A woman near the dance floor gasped. Someone whispered, "Is that a recording?" Another guest turned around, eyes wide. Daniel finished testing the mic and quickly stepped away, embarrassed, heart pounding. Later that night, a stranger approached him and said, "You should audition for AGT." Daniel laughed. The idea felt absurd, almost cruel. He was in his 40s. He had no manager, no training, no social media following. He was just a man who sang alone when no one was listening. But the thought didn't leave him. 2 months later, standing in that long line outside the audition hall, Daniel wondered if this would be the moment he finally failed in public instead of privately. His hands trembled slightly as his number was called. Inside the theater, the lights were harsh, the stage vast and intimidating. The judges sat behind their desk, calm and unreadable. The audience buzzed with low anticipation, already tired from hours of auditions. Daniel walked to the center, each step echoing louder than his thoughts. "What's your name?" one judge asked. "Daniel Reyes," he replied softly. "And what do you do for a living, Daniel?" "I work in hotel maintenance," he said. A few polite nods. No raised eyebrows. No interest yet. "And what will you be singing today?" Daniel hesitated. For a split second, he considered choosing something safe, something modern. But his chest tightened, and he realized this might be his only chance to be completely honest. "I'll be singing an Elvis Presley song," he said. The room shifted. A judge leaned back. Another smiled faintly, the kind of smile reserved for novelty acts. The audience murmured. Everyone had seen Elvis impersonators before. Sequined jumpsuits, exaggerated accents, karaoke-level performances wrapped in nostalgia. Daniel felt it too, the weight of expectation pressing against him, daring him to disappoint. He nodded to the band. The opening notes began, slow and gentle. Daniel closed his eyes. When he sang the first line, it wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy, but it was pure. The sound that came out of him didn't try to copy Elvis. It was Elvis, filtered through decades of lived pain, quiet endurance, and unspoken hope. His voice carried warmth and ache at the same time, like a memory you didn't realize you missed until it returned. The audience stopped breathing. By the second verse, one judge's pen slipped from her hand. Another leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked on Daniel as if afraid to blink. The room felt suspended, caught between past and present. Daniel's hands remained still at his sides. No dramatic gestures, no showmanship. The power was all in his voice, in the way he bent each note like it mattered, like it carried a piece of his life with it. As the song built, emotion crept into his tone, not forced, not theatrical, but honest. His voice cracked just slightly on a high note, and instead of weakening the performance, it made it devastating. That crack held years of sacrifice, nights spent choosing responsibility over passion, and dreams postponed until they almost disappeared. In the audience, a woman wiped her eyes. A man pressed his lips together, nodding slowly. Someone in the back whispered, "My God." By the final chorus, Daniel opened his eyes. He wasn't looking at the judges anymore. He was looking somewhere beyond the stage. Perhaps at the boy he once was, standing in front of a cracked mirror with a hairbrush microphone, believing with his whole heart that music could change his life. The last note lingered in the air. Silence. Not the awkward kind, the sacred kind. For 3 full seconds, no one moved. Then the theater erupted. The applause wasn't polite or controlled. People stood. Some shouted. Others simply clapped with tears streaming down their faces. One judge covered her mouth, visibly overwhelmed. Another shook his head in disbelief. That, one judge finally said, voice unsteady, was not an impersonation. That was a resurrection. Daniel stood frozen, unsure whether to smile or cry. His knees felt weak. "Daniel," another judge said gently, "do you have any idea what you just did to this room?" Daniel swallowed. "No, sir. You reminded us," the judge continued, "that great music doesn't belong to one country, one generation, or one face. It belongs to anyone brave enough to feel it." The third judge leaned forward, eyes glossy. "I've heard Elvis my entire life," she said. "But I have never heard him sound like that." Tears finally spilled down Daniel's cheeks. He tried to apologize, but the words tangled in his throat. "Don't you dare apologize," the judge said. That was a gift. When the votes came, they were unanimous. 4 yeses. The golden light flashed, bathing Daniel in warmth and sound. The audience roared again, louder this time, as if trying to lift him off the stage with their voices. Backstage, Daniel sat alone for a moment, hands shaking, chest rising and falling in disbelief. A production assistant offered him water, smiling like she had just witnessed something historic. That night, clips of his audition spread like wildfire. Headlines read, "The Filipino Elvis no one expected." Comments poured in from around the world. "I grew up with Elvis. This brought him back. I don't even like old music, but I cried. This is why talent shows exist." Daniel's mother watched the performance on a small television in their living room, hand pressed to her heart. When Daniel called her later, she couldn't speak at first. She just cried and said, "Anik, I always knew." In the weeks that followed, Daniel became a quiet sensation. Not loud, not scandalous, just deeply human. Each performance peeled back another layer of his story, and each time, audiences leaned in, hungry for sincerity in a world tired of noise. But no matter how far he went in the competition, people kept returning to that first audition. The moment a man no one expected stepped onto a stage and reminded millions that dreams don't expire, that music remembers us even when we forget ourselves, and that sometimes, one song is enough to change everything. For Daniel Reyes, it wasn't about becoming Elvis. It was about finally allowing his voice to be heard. And in doing so, he left AGT Manila in tears, and the world listening.